Hello, I'm Rick Joyner. Thank you for joining us for this another special bulletin on the restoration of Todd Bentley and his ministry. And one thing, great question that one of my team just brought up to me was, some of the questions about Todd not having a doctrine on divorce and remarriage. It really was, he didn't have a doctrine on divorce and remarriage. We're not talking about him having a doctrine for divorce and remarriage. That's not what I'm trying to do either. And I have had a lot of you guys inquire about, could I do a teaching on what I believe about marriage, about divorce, and about remarriage? I do intend to do that. But to be honest with you, with Todd searching out these things, and he's taken over 2 months now, going deeper and deeper, reading books, going through all kinds of resources. I did the same myself just when I knew I was going to be a part of this restoration process, and I've done it before when I got married and through other times as a pastor. I've studied this a lot, but there have been some challenges to some of my basic beliefs in these issues, and I think good challenges. I want to search the scriptures deeper, and that's what we want, is sound biblical truth, not just what we want to believe and not just what we want to promote or fits better with the times, but what does God think about these things? So we're not promoting a doctrine for divorce and remarriage. God hates divorce. It does happen. It's not the unforgivable sin. You can get past it. There's some that go through divorce and it's really not their fault. They shouldn't be penalized at all, and God doesn't consider it a sin, I believe, because we're even told in Jeremiah 3 that God went through a divorce with Israel. Now, I think he's going to remarry his bride, but so we need to understand all these things, and this is challenging us. Okay, some of the questions by this pastor I want to address, because he was really concise, and I thought it had some great questions. But he says, why has there been no admission on the part of apostolic leader that did lay hands on Todd and Shauna that night? Why haven't they had any admission of their responsibility, their part? I thought there had been plenty of admission by them and on the mistakes that were made that night. I don't know, but this brings up something. I think a lot of people have a tendency to think that because they haven't heard something or haven't read something that it doesn't exist. Well, maybe, we all know in part and we see in part. And because you may not have come upon this information, I got a huge response from many of these folks. And I think there may be room for some more, but some more admissions or whatever, but that's between them. I just want to deal with my own issues there. I'm not a part of the Revival Alliance and or Peter Wagner's ministry or anything, though I am friends and I greatly appreciate all those guys. Okay. Then the question was asked, okay, Todd and Shauna had previous marital conflict. Todd had a previous discipline. The event was plainly taxing on their marriage. How did that marriage fail within 1 month of the commissioning without any apparent knowledge by apostles and prophets? I would say because all men, including apostles and prophets, are fallible. And I covered that in a lot more depth in the video I did just previous to this one. Okay, do you realize how much validity was lost to our movement by this failure? No, maybe I don't. I was not a part of that movement. I'm not, privy to the inner activities of the Apostolic Restoration movement. I've been friends with them. I spoke at one of the early conferences. I was asked to be a part. I didn't think that I should be. We have our own movement going, and it's not focused on Apostolic Restoration necessarily. We're just trying to get closer to God and hear His voice and other things. So I'm not privy to a lot of things that went on in that movement or how damaging it was. But, for the most part, I think the people who are really with you are going to be with you when you go through trials and mistakes. And you need to make the most of it. I think it could ultimately end up even more strengthening for that movement. So, but I'm not a part of it, so I can't answer that any more than that. And but as far as apostolic authority in the church in general, I think it was valid that it be questioned are we really walking in apostolic authority now? I have many other reasons far beyond what happened in this situation, in which I would say we're a long ways from the biblical stature of the apostolic ministry. Now, I'm not going to get into that here, but I could spend a lot of time on that with a lot of evidence, I think. I think it, at best, if we have true apostolic authority in the earth today, it's still very immature. Thank the Lord, it's going to mature, but we got a long ways to go. Okay, I just think such a high title should not be cheapened by those who call themselves apostles who are not. And this is just about anybody today. You can throw a rock in any crowd and you're likely to hit an apostle. It's gotten that bad. And tragically so, I think. I think our spiritual currency has been devalued by calling those apostles who are not. They may be good pastors, may be good people, good evangelists, doing great things, but I have some very deep questions about whether we're walking in the real, true apostolic stature yet. But I think we're getting there. I think it is on time that there's an apostolic restoration movement. We need to move in that direction because the ministry that started the church age is going to be the ministry that completes the church in this age. And it will be restored, and there will be true apostles and true prophets in the earth. All right. Now, again, it was amazing amount of repetition in this letter from someone who was so ticked off by repetition. But there's a lot I'm just going to pass on. Okay. But I think there is a lot of mistakes that need to be acknowledged. I think there's also some examples, like you see in this letter, of people jumping to conclusions because they've not heard something or seen something, and so don't think it exists. But, there's a tendency, I think been a major tendency that's been highlighted by this whole incident of many people, and especially leaders in the church, to make big, sweeping judgments when they obviously only have partial information. There's still a whole lot of false information out there about this whole situation with Todd and everything. A lot of it just generally believed. And that's another whole issue. I think something I would like to examine through this whole process just from where we sit. It is striking how leaders in the church line up right here, and in my opinion, I would say are 90% negative, critical, whatever. Great questions. But really, in my opinion, seriously wrong in some of their judgments and conclusions. But I understand too, being a pastor, they're doing it from a good heart and a right heart in many cases, trying to protect their people, protect their sheep. But this tendency to make so many big, sweeping conclusions when you only have partial information, I think is wrong. And I believe it's not only wrong, I think it's critical. When this whole thing at Lakeland unfolded, what I felt like I heard from the Lord, and you have to determine whether I really did or not, but I felt that He told me He was going to use this whole thing to expose unrighteous judgment in His church and expose unrighteous judges who made who came to wrong conclusions and wrong judgments because they made many assumptions about their own revelation, about their own discernment, and they would make vast, sweeping judgments based on partial information. This has happened to a huge degree. Okay, we got 90% of you correct. I'm saying this for your sake, not against you. I hope you can hear that, but whether you like it or not, I'm going to say it. That's the way the leadership is lined up. I'd say 90%, maybe 99% of Christians who are not in leadership have just had a total different attitude and spirit towards this thing. Go figure. We need to address that, I think. There's some other major issues here, and I tell you, I need to do a book just to answer this pastor's questions, and they are so good and so pointed. And but I'm going to do one more on this, on a couple of things, and then see how these go down, see how many more questions arise from these, and then address some more on some later videos. So I'll do one more video on this one. Check it out. It may answer some of the questions you didn't get answered on this one.